Genetically engineered dogs, seeing eye dogs that can talk. They're called muties. Driverless cars and automated freeways, overpopulation, and psychological problems due to this society are treated by neural participation. A therapist connects you to a machine and manufactures dreams for you, dreams that are to be therapeutic. And then a blind woman who seeks out a protagonist to learn how to become a neural participant therapist. But how can she when she can't see? What types of dreams can she imagine? The 1966 novel, The Dream Master by Roger Zelazny. This is one of those science fiction novels that's practically ageless. Written over 50 years ago, it still reads like something that could have been written today. Names have meanings in this story. Our protagonist is Charles Render, and he renders or shapes dreams. In fact, this is a novella that's been expanded into a novel. It originally appeared in the January and February 1965 editions of Amazing Stories, and it was called He Who Shapes. Charles Render. Neural participation therapy occurs with a machine. It connects the patient to the therapist, and the therapist manufactures dreams in the patient's mind. They share these dreams together. We have some examples of him working with the patient. And then we have Eileen Shallot. She's a blind woman who wants to become a neural participant therapist. She seeks out Charles Render to be a mentor and a teacher. And Eileen has a seeing eye dog who can talk, a mutie, an engineered dog named Sigmund. Sigmund Freud. Sigmund is very protective of Eileen. Now let's go back to Eileen's surname, Shallot. Eileen Shallot's surname comes from a lyrical ballad called The Lady of Shalott by 19th century English poet Alfred Tennyson. The Lady of Shalott is a young noblewoman stranded in a tower up the river from Camelot. She suffers from a mysterious curse and must continually weave images on her loom without ever looking directly out at the world. Instead, she looks into a mirror which reflects the busy road and the people of Camelot as they pass by. The reflected images are described as shadows of the world, a poor substitute for seeing directly. She sees Sir Lancelot ride by and is smitten. She now wants to escape the tower and move on to Camelot. Sir Lancelot, Camelot, the Lady of Shalott. She leaves her tower, finds a boat upon which she writes her name, and floats down the river to Camelot. She dies before arriving at the palace. Among the knights and ladies who see her is Lancelot, who thinks she is lovely. The Dream Master is largely a retelling of The Lady of Shalott. There are many parallels. At one point, Charles Render is asked if these dreams could be recorded and if they could be played by another person. He cautiously answers, "Right now, though, the use of playback is restricted to qualified personnel." Why? Well, Render paused to light another cigarette. To be completely frank, it is to keep the whole area under control until we know more about it. The thing could be exploited commercially and perhaps with disastrous results if it were left wide open. What do you mean? I mean that I could take a fairly stable person and in his mind construct any sort of dream that you could name, and many that you could not. Dreams ranging from violence and sex to sadism and perversion, dreams with a plot like a total participation story, or dreams which border upon insanity itself, wish fulfillment dreams on any subject, cast in any manner. I could even pick a visual art style from expressionism to surrealism, if you'd like. A dream of violence in a cubist setting? Like that? Great! You could even be the horse of Guernica. I could set it up. I could record the whole thing and play it back to you or anyone else any number of times. God. Yes, God. I could make you God too if you'd like that, and I could make the creation last you a full 7 days. I control the time sense, the internal clock, and I can stretch actual minutes into subjective hours. Sooner or later this thing will happen, won't it? Yes. What will the results be? No one really knows. While we don't have the neural participation technology, we do have virtual reality. We have goggles and suits even that put us into the reality created by another person. The themes and ideas of the Dream Master are being explored right now. As the hesitant Charles Render does eventually become the mentor for Eileen Charlotte, we find that Charlotte has powers of her own, untapped powers. It's very important that the therapist controls the dreams. You can imagine if he was treating a mentally ill person, say a schizophrenic. If the patient can gain control, what happens to the therapist? This is a fascinating novel with amazing dream sequences. It also has a fascinating character in Sigmund. I think anyone who has read this novel wishes there was more of Sigmund. Now, my friend Chris at Liminal Spaces has a deep dive into this novel, over an hour long, if you want to explore it.
This one was really weird. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the strangest, most psychedelic, odd science fiction books I've read in a long time, and that is Roger Zelazny's The Dream Master.
I was chatting to him about this novel, and he was mentioning to me what the novella was missing. There's a whole long sequence about a Christmas party. We learn more of Render's family. That is not in the novella. And another really very interesting sequence of Sigmund being able to drive one of the driverless cars and go off hunting in the woods. That, in my mind, is a worthy addition to what the novella had. Chris and I agreed that more Sigmund was good. If you're interested, I'll have a link in the description to this video, to Chris's video. I think about 2/3 of this novel is terrific. I think that anyone can really enjoy it. But then there's another third where there's so many references that I didn't catch them all. Mythology and classic literature, as you can see with the example of the Lady of Shalott. So as long as you go into the novel realizing there'll be some references you may not get, I think you can still very much enjoy this novel. It reminded me of a couple books I have on my shelf. D.G. Compton's 1968 novel, Synthojoy. I really think that Compton has read either the novella or the novel. He has a machine in a hospital setting called Sensitape, which can control the dreams or thoughts of a person. And then Ursula K. Le Guin, The Lathe of Heaven. Once again, therapy and dreams that can change the reality of the world. Now, I would rate these two novels slightly higher than The Dream Master. I think they took the idea in interesting directions. That said, I still give The Dream Master 7.5 out of 10. These three novels would really make an interesting study if you wanted to read them in order of publication. An interesting side note is that in 1981, Zelazny wrote a film outline based on The Dream Master, which was purchased by 20th Century Fox and later developed into the film Dreamscape. I think it would be very interesting to rewatch that film and see what connections there could be. I actually suspect that some of the things that Compton and Le Guin talked about are within that film as well. So how about you? Any thoughts on The Dream Master or the film Dream Master? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep reading.